what would be the better storyline? Is it Mahomes getting his third Super Bowl, obviously going back-to-back, or Mr. Irrelevant getting his first?
There's got to be Purdy. I mean, listen, I love – and first of all, what Mahomes just said, from a player perspective, you wouldn't want to play for a guy any more than he makes you want to play for him. This guy, he always says the right thing, and it's always from a genuine place from his heart, right? The sincerity he talks with is just unbelievable. But big stories for the Super Bowl. Think about this. Brock Purdy goes from Mr. Irrelevant. He takes his team and gets injured in the championship game last year, so he can't play it. His team's got to play with McCaffrey basically at the end of the year to go be the quarterback. He brings him back this year. All he does is continue to win, puts him on his back against Green Bay, and then comes back from this massive deficit against Detroit when Shanahan's brilliant offenses had been over in both cases, and somehow Mr. Irrelevant throws him on his back, carries him to the Super Bowl, and now if he wins, he beats what some would consider the GOAT already, who even though he has 2 Super Bowls. So not only would he go through all this stuff, he would beat the guy that everybody thinks is the GOAT. Like, there can't be a position in sport where you're at this spot, you can go knock off this guy with all the things that you've already done and can't be the greatest story. I mean, this guy has overcome all kinds of nonsense.
It's a Cinderella story.
It is.
Let's be honest. It could be a Disney movie.
Yeah. I mean, it is for real. It's as good as it gets. And so from my perspective, my money, I'm going to Purdy. It would just be an incredible story.
Yeah, it'd be a great story, but it wouldn't be the best story. The best story is Patrick Mahomes chasing down Tom Brady and being able to usurp him as the greatest quarterback of all time. Because if we're being honest, that's what we all want to see. Throughout the life of Patrick Mahomes' career, we recognize that he's not going to have anybody that rivals him as far as contemporaries go. There is no current peer in the National Football League for Patrick Mahomes' greatness. We just haven't seen it. I mean, this guy has been to 4 Super Bowls before his age 30 season. Never been done before. Like, we're talking about multiple championships, multiple MVPs. He's in a conversation with Joe Montana and Tom Brady and nobody else. That's why the Mahomes storyline is the most compelling of it. When you look at what he's done already this season, right?
For sure.
Overcoming his wide receivers, leading the league in drops, overcoming being an underdog on the road in 2 of the 3 playoff games he's won. Thinking about beating 3 playoff teams that had a plus 100-point differential on the regular season. It's never happened 4 times in one postseason. He's got a chance to do it on Sunday. This, to me, is by far a better storyline because now all of a sudden, no matter how you feel about Patrick Mahomes, you have to acknowledge him as the greatest quarterback that's playing the game today and in the conversation for the all-time greats, the immortals. And to me, that is what makes it a tremendous story.
He's already in those conversations. Yeah. You know what? For a lineman, 2 linemen to sit here, and you're going to go for the guy who's already got the flowers. Everybody's already saying he's the greatest because of what he is.
They're not saying he's the greatest of all time.
Right, but they're saying he's the greatest player right now. And some people are saying he's better than because of where he is and how he throws it off schedule, what he's being asked to do versus Brady, all those kind of things. Not just rings, right? That kind of stuff. But when you think about the underdog, like think about the way we came up. Like you go for the underdog, but you can't almost Mahomes is almost already loved so much. It's like the easy pull. It's like he's already the greatest. He says the right things. We love him because of those things. But man, you can't tell me there's a little bit of you wants the underdog to get this thing.
Jeff, the underdog is the Kansas City Chiefs. Oh, the underdog in this game. The Chiefs are quite literally the underdogs. They are the underdog in this game.
The 1.5 favorite. They are not the under. Travis Kelce, that whole crew, they've been there 1,000 times.
They're the underdogs.
Deebo Samuel and Christian McCaffrey, and for them getting it done. Come on.
No, that's great. I mean, we want those guys to have success, but I don't think that's the best storyline in this game.
The Chiefs are the underdogs, and we're talking about if they're a dynasty. They're the new Patriots.
But that's the thing. That's the thing that makes it wild with Kansas City, and that's why I want to continue to see Patrick Mahomes' competitive greatness on display in the biggest stage that the game has to offer.
That's because Vegas knows how to make money. That's why they make people underdogs. underdogs. You and I both.
Oh, my
It's all
gosh.
about where the money
Oh, my
goes,
gosh.
the underdog thing. But think about this, man. From Shanahan's offense, and everybody says you're a system whatever. All you got to fit in a piece, you're this guy. You wouldn't be nearly this good if you were wherever it is. And you've done with Shanahan's offense what had never been done before in 2 weeks in a row. 2 weeks in a row. Can't get a hand on can't get a grip on the ball in the rain, whatever it is. And in the fourth quarter, the last drive, you make it happen. The run he makes against Detroit, I mean, set the world on fire, right? Goes and puts his legs, makes use of it, does whatever he does that he hadn't done all season. I just think from the Purdy conversation, Shanahan's offense, all the different pieces and parts, they got to be the underdog from the conversation that we're having of. If you put money, no one's putting money against Mahomes.
Okay.
Like it's hard.
Well, people have been betting against Mahomes all season long, and they've been proven wrong. So there's nobody that thought that this Kansas City Chiefs team, after they lost Christmas Day to the Raiders, would be in this spot.
That's
but
fair.
I agree with that.
Yet and still, they're still here.
I agree with that.
I guess what makes Mahomes the best storylines in terms of winning the Super Bowl over Brock Purdy is because you have to have some kind of feeling about him now. Because he would have won 3 Super Bowls over 5 years. So either you're going to love him or you're going to vilify him like we do with every star on a dynastic run.
If the Niners win, will the bigger reason be Brock Purdy, Mr. Irrelevant, or you think Nick Bosa and that Niners defense?
It's going to be the 49ers defense, and it's in large part because of the quarterback on the other sideline in Patrick Mahomes. Like, you can't afford to allow this to be a shootout on Super Sunday between Mahomes and Purdy because the biggest disparity in this matchup is the difference in the quarterbacks, right? Where Patrick Mahomes is on a GOAT trajectory, and Purdy, for all of the great things that he's been able to do, is in his first full season as the full-time starter. So I guess there's a little bit of a cushion that you have to provide for that quarterback, which is being able to keep the game as competitive as you can, which is making sure that it's closely contested. Again, that's easier said than done when you're talking about a quarterback like Patrick Mahomes, but if you look at that 49ers defense, they just have not been up to the task throughout the playoffs. You're talking about the 2 playoff games that they've played in, forcing opponents to punt a grand total of 3 times.
Unbelievable.
So 20 drives from opponents on the 49ers defense, only 3 punts. They've relied on multiple turnovers to be able to climb back in those games. And I'm counting the turnovers on downs with the 4th downs against the Lions in Conference Championship week as turnovers. But that's what they've been relying on. Well, guess what? Patrick Mahomes don't turn the ball over. His last 6 playoff games, all 6 playoff wins, he's got 11 touchdowns, no turnovers, and he's only been sacked 5 times.
That's unbelievable.
So they're going to have to play a really good game and force some negative plays in order to keep it close for that 49ers offense, and particularly for Brock Purdy.
Yeah. I like where your head is as far. I don't think they can do it. I just be real. Like, I just don't. You think about Mahomes when he plays San Francisco, like he gets after him, right? Like, whatever the defenses are, they haven't done a great job of getting pressure. They haven't done a good job of stopping the run. Like you said, 3 punts in 2 games. Like, they haven't been the defense that we thought.
How'd it work out for the Ravens when they went up Patrick Mahomes?
Exactly. So here's my thing. Purdy, to beat Mahomes, your quarterback has to play efficient and be fearless. And so that's what Purdy's going to do. If they're going to win this game, he's going to be fearless. He's going to make a throw that everybody goes, why are you going to make that throw? Tight window. Think about Green Bay, right? I think it was 3rd down. Puts a dot, just puts a dot in. Great tight coverage, has to make the play. Pull the ball down. Go extend the drive with your legs. Whatever is going to have to happen. Purdy is going to have to carry this team because, to your point, the defense has not carried them the way we expected them to.
No.
It has really been offense and him matching, whether it's the last drive of the 4th quarter or this comeback that they had. And again, the turnovers on downs, I count the defense does get a win there, right? But when you're talking about beating Patrick Mahomes, if he's playing good ball, Brock Purdy is going to have to match it. So Brock Purdy's performance is going to have to match that of Patrick Mahomes to get the win. Like, it's just, again, got to be efficient. I'm not saying your numbers got to be higher, but you can't turn it over. You can't take sacks, right? You can't do the things that Mahomes doesn't do to lose games. And I think that's going to be the ask of Brock Purdy. Everybody talks about, like, system and, like, for whatever you think about Patrick Mahomes, him going to an Andy Reid system was very beneficial, right? Like, so when we talk about going into, and I'm not saying he hasn't made Andy Reid significantly better, because he has. Reid only won Super Bowls with Mahomes. So this is not a slight on Mahomes, but they were already a good team. And we act like he brought them from, this wasn't like a Burrow situation where you walk into nothing and flip that thing around, or a Peyton Manning, flip that thing around. They both were coming into pretty decent football teams. Now, Mahomes, GOAT trajectory, all those kind of things. But, man, Purdy is going to have to play. Like, he is going to have to ball out in this game to set this team up to win. And I just think from an offensive perspective, they're going to have to match, and at some point, Purdy's going to have to do that.
No doubt, Jeff. And it's a fine line between telling a guy to go out there and be fearless and make plays, and avoid having those toxic plays, right? Avoid the turnover-worthy plays. Avoid trying to bounce the football off of a DB's face mask in order to have your most explosive pass play on the day. Avoid those sack fumbles in the pocket. Like, you've got to make sure that you play a buttoned-up game, but it's also got to be a productive game. You can't play afraid.
Can't be scared.
Here's why I push back and say the defense has got to be the catalyst. The defense has got to dictate the complexion of the game, because we know what Pat Mahomes can do when he's allowed to control what the game looks like. We saw what happened in Baltimore last weekend, right? When they were able to get out to that early lead. They scored on their first 2 possessions, both double-digit play drives, the length of the field, and then all of a sudden you blink, and it was 14-7. And guess what happened? The Baltimore Ravens offense got away from their game plan. They only gave it to their running backs on running plays 6 times, and that was the #1 rush offense. So again, 15 on the other sideline makes coaches on the offensive side do things that are uncharacteristic. The last thing you want to do is put pressure on the play caller, which in turn puts pressure on your quarterback. That's why you got to keep it as a close game. Remember, that game against the Baltimore Ravens for the Chiefs, it was never really outside of being a one-possession game.
Absolutely.
And yet the Baltimore Ravens got completely away from their game plan. If you're that 49ers defense, if you're Steve Wilks, you absolutely have to avoid that. Last point I'm going to make, make sure you try to score first. So defense, get a stop, allow your offense to score complementary football.
Fast.
The Kansas City Chiefs are 10-1 this season. When they score first, they're 4-5 in all the other games. So San Francisco 49ers take pressure off your young quarterback by playing good defense, getting stops early, and creating a soft place for your quarterback to ease into the game.
If you're Wilkes, though, it is a game of allow Pacheco to be the guy. And I'm just telling you, like, let him get the runs, right? Like, so if you're giving up 4 yards a clip, like, stay with it. Because here's the deal about Andy Reid. Like, think whatever you want. And he is very disciplined in playoffs about running the football. And it's 100% different than, September for Andy Reid don't look nothing like February Andy Reid, right? Like, he calls on the run. They run the ball. Pacheco's leading the league in rushes, in the playoffs, right? I mean, in yards in the playoffs. But make that dude beat you. Do not let Mahomes, Kelsey, don't let those guys be. Don't let them be explosive plays. Make them, because at some point, every offense with a Mahomes gets impatient, and they want to make those plays. So if I'm Wilkes, I'm thinking, whatever I got, I'm going to bait them and make them continue to run. Trust the run, and force them to be as patient as you can make them. Because if you start giving up big plays, Katie barred the door, but it's going to get ugly.